Hello, everybody, and welcome to Back to School Night 2018. For the first 8 years of my teaching on this night, I'd always stand in front of the parents and students and give a little spiel on biology, physical science, whatever class I was happened to be teaching. And every year after every group, I'd always forget to say certain things. Sometimes I would go overtime. I would need more time. Sometimes I would be like, oh my gosh, we still have so much time left. But anyway, so I decided this year to do it how my students learn from me. I don't stand in the front anymore and lecture. They learn from either doing or from their computers. All right, so for my first 7 years of teaching, this guy right here would have been me. It worked really well for, I'd say, the first 5 years. I would stand in front and lecture, basically giving the material to my students. And they had really no problem for the first 4 or 5 years sitting there for long periods of time, 45 minutes, very rarely an hour, and they would take notes. But I've noticed that as I've gone on, the students don't respond very well to this type of teaching anymore. Now, last year and the year before, even though my students were quiet and they were, being polite, I was seeing faces like this or like this. Now, even though she might be listening to what I'm saying, she's not engaged, she's not having fun, she's not learning. So basically the lecture format I threw out the window pretty much for good last year. Now today in class, my students learn either with their laptop, their Chromebook, or by doing something. In this case, these students were trying to identify different microorganisms found in pond water, first by looking at them through the microscope, and then trying to research using their Chromebooks to try to identify them. In my class, pencils, even though it says on the syllabus, hey, you need a pencil, you don't need them that often. To take notes, if you like to still write them and not type them, that's like the only time you'll ever need a pencil. And a couple more examples of students learning by doing. Here's some of my human biology students. They are learning the anatomy, which is the structures, and the physiology, the functions, of different organs, like there's a lung right there. So they're disassembling this torso, and they're learning about the structures. These people over here, my lectures now are online. And I find that that is better for a couple reasons. Number one, students can pause or rewind if they don't understand something. Number two, if they are sick and gone for long periods of time, my lectures are always on the computer. I had a student last year, she missed over 50% of the first semester because she had bad migraines. Her final grade was, I believe, a B+ for the first semester because she was always doing all her work at home. So that's what this student is doing. This student up here, he's doing a practice quiz. It's called Quizzes. And I make one of these for every single unit. So, and it's always an assignment, like these guys had to get 90% on this Quizzes in order for it to count as a grade. So basically it is for studying. So you learn the material on your computer and then you practice the material on your computer. All right, so right now you guys might be thinking, wow, this sounds great. Everybody's going to do so well, everybody's going to pass. Well, I have found one big problem with the learning by doing philosophy. And that is, if you don't do what you are supposed to do, you will not learn, therefore your grade will suffer. This is a student I had in years past. His problem was you will not find a nicer guy than this, but he could physically not stop watching basketball. Loved the Celtics. If you asked him the entire roster from the Celtics and their stats, he could give you all that information. But if you asked him about a biology term, he would really struggle. The whole point is, if you don't do the exercises we do in class, it will be very, very difficult for you to pass the class. Now, the good news to this is, I very rarely give any homework. I give all the class, since I do not lecture hardly at all anymore, all the class is devoted to practicing the material that we are trying to learn. But if you're practicing anything, the only way you get good at it or better is to actually do it and to practice. Okay, so now as parents, how do you know if your student is not doing what he or she is supposed to do? How can you find out what their grade is at any time? And this is huge. Back when I was in high school, you didn't find out until you got your report card or if the teacher happened to call you. Well, today I believe I have 179 students total. At any given time, there could be 30, 40, 50, hopefully not 60, but that are flunking or have a D or an F. It's hard for me to make that many phone calls. So we have this thing, Aries, where you can check your students' grades. So parents, the first thing you'll do is you go to the district website, and you'll click right there where it says Parents. Now when you click that Parents box, this little drop-down window is going to come open, and you're going to click on Aries Parent Access Request. And that's going to come up with, it's going to tell you how to sign up for your own personal account where you can check your students' grades at all times. Very, very powerful tool. All right, so this is what will come up when you click the button from the previous screen. So it gives you, you have to contact the counselor. You have to give them the student's name that you want to be monitoring, your name, and a valid email address. Then when you go to this, grades.tulare.k12.ca.us, you're going to get this. You will then log in with your email and set up some sort of password that you can remember, and you'll be able to monitor your students' grades. And this is the sort of things you will see once you get on Aries to see how your students are doing. So this, you do not have to wait for the 9-week report cards. It used to be every 6 weeks, now it's 9 weeks. That's a long time. If you go half the semester and you don't know your son or daughter is flunking, it might be too late before you find out. Well, you can see here, this student right here has straight A's so far. You can see over here, the little one with a red, missing assignment, missing assignment. You can also see down here, there are assignments that are going to be due. And in this case, these were the ones that were due today. So a lot of information there. But say you want to find out, hey, I wonder what that missing assignment in Spanish is. Well, if you click on the blue Spanish right there, you will get this screen right here. Now you can see the one red assignment right there, and it looks like this student didn't turn in Chapter 1 textbook activities. So when your son or daughter comes home, not only do you know his or her grade, you also know they have a missing assignment, and you know exactly which missing assignment it is. You can also look down here and see how they're doing on classwork. This person's 88.6 in classwork. How they doing on homework? Oh, good, 100% on homework. Now it looks like they have not had any tests or quizzes yet, but you'll be able to find out how they're doing on tests or quizzes right there. And one more thing, once you get used to the Aries portal, you can also monitor your son or daughter's attendance. Now usually you know if they attend school or not. You can see this student missed 7th period one time, and the V means it was verified. It was right there on August 15th. You can also see how many times they are tardy, and that'll come up with just a little T in there. So you can see how many times they're tardy, which is important because if you get 10 tardies, you go on something called lockout, which can keep you from going to class for a few days. You can also see right here if they have an excused absence. That means a parent called in and gave a reason for the absence, or maybe you forgot to call the attendance office and it's listed as unexcused. Well, that can remind you, I need to call the attendance office and get that absence excused. Okay, that is it for this little video. If this was my students, I would have a quiz to follow this to make sure they were paying attention, but I will trust that you guys were listening. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of your night.